Hello, everyone. This is Tamara Childs, Intuitive, with my friend Ruth McCants, doing sound healing and astrology here for your weekly energy update. Hi, Ruth.
Good morning. How are you, my dear?
I know, I think it's close to noon now, but good morning to you. It's beautiful
Yeah.
here. It's a beautiful fall day.
Well, I can say it's fall here, but it's acting like summer.
Yeah, it's hot.
Yeah.
Yes, the weather is
Yeah.
got her moods.
Yes.
So welcome everyone to your weekly energy update. And today is September 28th, 2017. And Ruth, we have a few special things that are happening today. We have Pluto, I believe, is moving direct today. We
It
also have
is.
Jupiter oppose Uranus. And we've got a moon in Capricorn, and that's speaking to the Pluto energy. So I know before we started, you said that things felt like it was, this is a grounded time, like a get it done time, which I've been using that phrase lately. I did that last time in my last video. So, but it feels that way, doesn't it?
I'm going to be very honest. I always like having moon in Capricorn because it really does help me to settle down, to settle my proverbial waters. And it gives me a focal point to get some
Yes.
things accomplished. So I can celebrate that personally today. And it actually feels that way in terms of the world around us too, a little bit, because we, in great part, we all know what needs to get done. And so it's time to focus ourselves toward it.
Yeah, time to actually put things into form. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel as though this past week has been just a flurry of activity. There's been so much going on in the world, of course, and in each of our lives. And it's been a time when I think there's been kind of a feeling of pressure about creating action in the world, in our lives, and not just sort of being in the react mode. And so, one of the things that we had talked about before starting the show is just the feeling of the opposition. And we were talking about how Uranus and Jupiter can work together, and yet it is an opposition. Do you want to say a little bit more about how you see that?
Yeah, I do, because we often, and you said the operative word, opposition, but it's a relationship.
Yeah.
One of the things that is happening when you have astrologically two planets and signs on the other side, we can either make a choice to say, give it my way, or I want my way. But everything that we're seeing in our world right now, because that we're dealing with collective thoughts, paradigm shifts, transitions. We're in a very powerful transition time. And I would even say it's partly because with Jupiter in Libra, whether we want to sit down with somebody else, it becomes important to sit with another person. And at first we might have to go through our shenanigans of, I don't want to listen and all of that. But at the end of the day, what happens? We will, all of the resources, in fact, I pulled a card from Sonia Choquette's deck, Follow Your Vibes, Listen to Your Vibes. At the end of the day, we share every resource on the planet, no matter what anybody says. There is the water that has to be shared. And in fact, the card that I pulled was share a breath.
Oh, wow.
And what this brought to mind is that the same oxygen that somebody else on the other side of the world breathed, I'm breathing now. And the oxygen that I breathe is now on the other side of the world being breathed by the other person. And so no matter what anybody says,
we all need oxygen.
That's right. And that brings us to Jupiter and Uranus.
Yeah.
Share, and I'm using this as a metaphor, share a breath. But it's literally the truth. We share the there is no way that we can do any less, because I can't say, oh, don't breathe my oxygen, because it doesn't work that way.
It'll be really interesting when Jupiter moves into Scorpio, because we've all been immersed in relationships, our relationship to community, our relationship to others, our that we have been very focused on how does what I do affect my relationships and the people around me and in my circle, and how does it ripple out our actions. That's been the point of expansion for the past year almost, and yet Uranus is in Aries, isn't it, still? And Aries is like, how can I be my unique, I want to go my own way. And so I feel like one of the things that a lot of people are dealing with right now is looking for the relationships around them to be the leader of them. And I feel like we're supposed to look at the relationships to see what's cooperative and how we can harmonize. But we are actually supposed to kind of choose something individual with ourselves and lead in our, I was speaking with someone recently who it was very clear that this person needed to be the leader in their own life, and instead was not really wanting to pull forward and shine and be the leader in that way, because this person couldn't see anyone else leading in that way. And I think maybe that's part of the opposition that we're feeling.
Well, I'm glad you said the leadership. The first and foremost is making a decision inside each one of ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
taking a little tiny step of what do I need to begin and how do I need to move toward it in terms of my own individual decision. Because it's actually a false thought to say I'm going to lead all of them, but I haven't done any of the leading inside me.
Yeah, it's because there's a lot going on. Some of it is not, to me, very real. There's a lot, the fake news and all of that. I feel like there is like a sense of confusion, or people feeling lost, or where are we supposed to go? What are our templates? What are we using? And part of that, I think, is the Pluto and Capricorn too. Just our structures are just not, they're not feeding us really the way that they used to. And so we are, I really feel like the answer for us moving forward is in the creative. And
yes.
and this, when we create something of our own way, so we create our relationships, and other people can say, oh, don't get involved with that person, or don't know those people because I heard this and that. That's kind of a microcosm for what I think is happening in the whole world, that we can't travel on the carpet of hearsay and have it be something grounded and concrete for us. We have to create it for ourselves, and then that's our beacon that goes out, and we say, this is what I'm creating with this person. This is what I'm creating here with these people.
Right.
And we decide what we're creating. We don't listen to rumors.
And you just you said that, okay, with Jupiter, it's expansion. But there's an interesting thing that happens with the Uranian energy. It says if you don't make a decision, Uranus itself is a messenger of I'll just all of a sudden wipe it away.
Yeah.
You see?
Yes.
And in a strange way, Mother Nature is giving us such a lesson in what we consider to be important, and in one moment it's wiped away. And so in our own individual lives, we often say, wow, I had a wake-up call.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's so interesting, because I received a message this morning about wake-up calls. And I think that's true, because to me, Uranus, I always think of the electrical component with Uranus. And, we've had a lot of storms lately.
That's right.
And a lot of power outages. And I always think of it as that the world is a great big brain, and that Uranus is, you know, a short circuit of a part that is just like, say you have just a, you know, on Saturday Night Live, they used to call it, there was a character who did stinkin' thinking, you know, and so when you're in a pattern that's not good for you, or something that's not growthful for you, your Uranus is the energy that comes into your life and goes zzz, and it short circuits that
That's right.
thing that doesn't work for you anyway, and it just gets rid of it, and it doesn't work anymore. And then you know, I mean, when you have a stroke, I think the electrical activity in part of your brain may not work for a bit.
That's right. That's exactly
the other area.
That's right. That's exactly what happens physiologically when we have a CB8 episode.
Yeah.
And, you know, this brings to mind, this is kind of a funny little thing, but in one of my music classes, I have this, it really is making me laugh. The boom box is kind of old.
Yeah.
You see, it's kind of the way
1984.
It is. It's sort of like back. I put the cord in the wall socket, and the grounding, it has this little grounding piece in the, you know, many plugs have a little grounding piece, that little metal thing. The metal thing got stuck, and it's still at the center. We have to get somebody to pull that grounding piece of metal out of the wall socket. It's still in there, right, to this day.
Yeah.
And I pulled the cord out, and I'm looking at the cord because the little grounding piece is now missing from the boom box. And that's kind of like how it feels.
Well, I mean,
we're looking for grounding of ourselves.
Pluto, yes, we are. And that to me is the Neptune in Pisces, like the wave that's just washing, or, you know, a chemical wave that's washing through us and getting us all confused, and I don't know, and they're depressed over there, so I think I'm depressed, or, you know, I can't enjoy this meal because over here, you know, someone's not having a meal. And I think being grounded is about being in the body.
Right.
Being in the present moment. And Pluto in Capricorn is not going to let up on us anytime soon. It's saying, look, you get grounded, or I will remove the ground. I will remove all the false concepts of, you know.
Tamara, that is brilliant. I will remove the ground. And I mean, I don't want to make short shrift of what has happened, but literally, the earth has moved.
Yeah, it continues to move and have a lot of activity. And again, it's really metaphoric for the, you know, our own, you know, our soul's geography. You know, how do we want to live our lives? Who's pulling on our minds? Who's pulling on our emotions? What information are there, you know, things that are influencing us negatively that we need to block and just say, you know, I know that's a frequency out here that I feel that doesn't feel good to me.
Absolutely.
You know, and really let that go. And I guess I feel like I'm a broken record saying things like that, but I also feel like it's continuing to be very relevant for each of us.
No, you're not a broken record. No, because
clearing out interference.
In fact, I like, a couple of weeks ago, you made reference to the emotional smog, you see. That is part of what we have to cut through. And if we use, again, the Uranus as a message, it is like saying, hey, I'm going to help you cut through, because something, if you don't do it, I will suddenly open up pathways, and you might not appreciate the way that I go about opening up that pathway.
Well, also, can we just say that I think moving forward with this opposition, that we may discover sudden new applications for relationships, new relationships. And again, the word is sudden because it's Uranus. But it's
Yes, yes,
also,
it is.
we're also working with a beneficial, you know, with Jupiter and Libra, it wants us to expand through relationship and through relating and through harmony and art and beauty and the things that connect us in a beautiful way with others. So who in each of our personal circles can be that expander for us? Who are we the expander for? How could we allow that to happen, even if it's sudden change? And how could it be, you know, like a fun surprise? I think there's some fun surprises afoot for people.
Thank you for saying that, because that is one of the major things that we forget. Even in the midst of things going on,
Mm-hmm.
there is humor, there is laughter,
Mm-hmm.
there is still joy.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can pull forth from that energy,
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden, it makes all of the things that have occurred, makes it easier to deal with.
Yes, yes, we
Mm-hmm.
have concerns, but there's still humor, there's still joy.
Right.
And it's funny because I'm going to share my cards that I drew before our show today. One is relaxation.
Oh, yes, that's right.
The Aboriginal Spirit Oracle. And this is about, for those of you listening that have been stressing and straining and trying to be in a state of tension, that it is time to have some relaxation. And also, this card to me, Ruth, reminds me that good things are set in motion already by
That's
us.
right. It is.
It's time
Yes.
to receive. Stand in the river of light and receive, I like to say. And the other one, it's funny, the colors are very similar on this one, is adventure. Yeah.
And I'm going to put mine up right beside yours. Listen to your heart. You see, it goes directly with your relaxation and the adventure, because it's important. This is listening to the vibes. Listen to whatever you want to call them. Listen to your own inner guides, your muse, your angels, but listen to your heart. And it'll take you on that adventure.
I think staying out of the head is really smart these days, because there's a lot of stuff that can really rattle around in the head. Some night recently, I had this experience that was a great experience for me, and then in the middle of the night, I subconsciously sort of woke up, and I suddenly had this very paranoid backstory to this happy experience. And I remember kind of watching myself, you know, when you're half asleep and you're like, I thought, where is that coming from? That is really paranoid to see something so positive in that regard. I mean, it was so bizarre that I woke up in the morning, I thought, what was that all about? And that's a part of our minds. Our mind will spin us a story, and it can be just a horror story sometimes. Even if it has no relevance, it's not connected to the joy of the moment. It's not true. Keep that in mind, people, when if you're listening to this, what negative stories could you let go of this week?
That is wonderful.
Yeah.
What stories? Because we have the power to revision and revisit.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad you said that. And retell our own stories, because that's all we're doing all the time. Every single day, we're telling our stories. It's the research says we're running about probably 80 to 100,000 words inside our minds every single day. How many of those are just what you said? Those kind of stories that keep us ungrounded.
And I think too, not dwelling so much, Ruth, on, well, where did that come from? And I wonder if I should listen to it. To me, the voice of intuition, and I'll check this out with you, how you feel about this, but it's not fear-driven. It's actual and factual. You know, it'll give us information quietly, but it's not going to run this paranoia energy behind it.
because that's the emotional part. We have to ask, what am I holding on to? Because I like the distinction between, yes, look at what the voice is saying, but what is it connected to? Because usually it's connected to something in the past that frightened us in some shape or form.
Oh, I'm really glad you said that. That is so true. Fear comes from either somebody else's story that's spinning through our mechanism, or from something we already experienced. It doesn't generally come from something we haven't experienced yet.
No.
Because we get fear as more of a memory. It's not really a forethought. And so that's why when people say, well, I'm scared that this is going to happen, or I'm scared that that's going to happen, it's important to clear a past fear about that thing happening.
And I like how you said, because listen to the language. What was listen to your heart, because our heart does not spin stories like that.
No.
Our heart gives us stories of, wow, what if I went out and took a moment to relax and sit in the park? What if I go and take my little puppy for a walk, or I take my 2 kids and we go and swing at the playground? That's what the heart will say.
Yeah. It's all about seeking harmony and peace and what you feel connected to or affinity with. I always think of that as what the heart is what you feel connected to. And that's never going to be fear.
No, it's not.
Not
No.
here. It may be happening up here, but it won't be happening in the heart. And
I think we need to really say that again. The heart does not play fear. The mind plays fear.
It does. It does. And just, a suggestion to people who feel like they are too fearful. I love just saying, who does that belong to? Return to center.
Yes.
Because we often are just receptacles for, thought waves, thought forms, thought masses that are just out there, and people are contributing negatively to it, and it doesn't have anything to do with you at all. Ruth, we're at the end of our time.
This was so quick. Wow.
This was a quick one, but I think we said what we needed to say and got to connect with people. But people get more of you tomorrow, because on the radio show, we are going to be continuing to talk about the fall energy coming in. We're probably going to talk about October and more about the opportunities and the stuff that we talked about today and how to stay out of fear.
Right.
And
absolutely.
So
remedies. You know how much I love remedies.
Yes. It'll be a show about remedies. And that is tomorrow, Friday, the 29th at 10 a.m. Pacific, 12radio.com. I always put the link below so that you can follow along. And tomorrow's going to be a really fun show with Ruth. So everybody tune in. And
come on over. Looking forward to it.
Yes, we will continue this discussion. So I guess we'll just say goodbye, huh, Ruth?
Right. We'll see you tomorrow.
We'll see you tomorrow. Bye, everybody.